Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. So I tied a muddler pattern up, an old Peach Muddler from years gone by, and I've put a little modern twist into it with some new materials. I was asked to tie it up as a tutorial, so here we go. Without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise is a Hackle H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 10, it's on a medium wire and it's finished in black nickel. Now initially I'm going to start off with some floss. This is from Simplify and it says Flow Orange, but it's what I'm using as a peach substitute if you like. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take some of this floss straight off my reel. And this is going to be my tail. So what I'm going to do with the floss is fold it in half again, and that's going to create my tail. Now I'll lay this to the side for the moment, and what I'm going to do next is just catch on well back from the eye of the hook and lay down a bed of floss. I'm happy that it's, I don't know if you noticed, but it's spread right out here. Got it pretty flat, and that's ideal for what I want to do with this. So I'm going to take away my rat's tail there. I'll grab the 4 strands that I've folded together, and then I'm going to just get a couple of turns just to hold that into place. Now in the good old days, before we had all this fancy material that we're blessed with now, the Peach Muddler would have been tied with your granny's knitting wool. So you'd have got a nice shade of peach and you'd have battered on with wool for this part. But as we have the materials available to us now, I'm going to just put a little twist into the original pattern. Next thing I'm going to do is add some wire. Again, this is from Simplify. It's 0.2mm, and as you can see, it's silver wire. It's just pinged off my bench there. Now I'm going to catch that in at the end here. I'm just getting it in on my side. And again, I want to try and just get that floss flattened out so I can get a nice flat body with this. I'm going to come all the way to the back of the fly, and then I'll come all the way back up to the top. And as you can see, this is, although it says Flow Orange, it does look peach to my eyes. I suppose everyone's slightly different. I'm going to just finish that off and secure. Once secured, I can just take away that. So we'll just tidy up the tail before we go any further. I'm going to come in. I'm taking, probably leave about 1 centimetre for this tail. And once I've got it tied in and trimmed to the size I want, I can simply fluff it out. Just got a wee extra fibre there I don't want. I'll just pull the wire rib out the way. So next then, we're going to select a feather from this cape here. Now it's a grizzle cape. It's been bleached into quite a pleasing shade. So I'm going to just pick a feather appropriate to the size of the fly I'm tying. Now with this, I want to just check that I've got the right size. So I'm going to strip away quite a bit off the base of that feather. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fibres from the bottom end here, so that I've taken some of the, it's probably easier to do it and then show you. I've taken some of the leading fibres, so when I bring my hackle round, the first thing that's going to come over is the bit of feather that I've not stripped out properly. Now with muddlers, wax is your friend and strong thread is your friend. So I'm going to be using the Trout Line 30 denier nano silk, sumo thread they call it, but it's basically a GSP thread. So I'm going to wrap that onto the shank of the hook, and I'm going to bring it back just to where I want to catch in my feather that I've prepared there for you. So wax is always your friend when it comes to tying muddlers or working with deer hair for that matter. So I can now bring up my feather or hackle, palm or hackle should I say, and I can trap that into place. Next thing then, just locate your hackle pliers, and what I want to do is bring that around, and then when I bring this over, because I've stripped out that edge, the feather should stand just perfect for me, and it has. Now with the hackle, try and keep it evenly spaced. Nobody's going to tell you off if it's not 100% accurate. It's a pretty rough looking fly this, but sadly I tied this a couple of weeks back for a Facebook post, and I was just saying in that post that this used to be one of my favourite flies. It was just a deadly fly for trout, brown, rainbow, it didn't seem to matter. This fly would do the job for the lot of them. But when you first start with, well certainly from my perspective, when I first started fishing, I could tie flies, but they were very basic. Things like the Viva and cat's whiskers, beady-eyed cats, I would tie them, and because they work, I never felt the need to be tying much more complex than that. And when I wanted flies like this, I would go to my local tackle shop, which was John Norris, believe it or not. It was the local one to me, and I would just buy them, and they would be poor. You know, 30 years ago, the choice of fly quality was poor. They would be tied in foreign lands and just not be very good, but it was either that or you learn to use deer hair, which I never did until much later in life. So once I've got that in place, I'm going to bring my thread back. Oops. Like so. Just get it in line with that rib. And that's looking a bit messy, to be honest, but don't worry, it's going to get a hell of a lot messier. So the deer hair I've got here is it's one that I got a few years ago now from Rob Dennison. He dyes his own materials, and I got some of this. I got different colours of sort of end of line, if you like, and this is a lovely shade of quite dark olive, but I'm going to use it for this part. Now you want a generous clump of deer hair. I'll just get this off the skin. It's fairly generous. Yeah, I've got quite a. Before I put it into my stacker, which there it is, I've got here. I'm going to just grab my comb and comb out any of the loose fibres. Now, because this has been dyed, there isn't a whole lot of under fur on it, which is a good thing. It's going to help me when I come to spin up my deer hair. Now, the thing with the muddlers, which the fly that kind of replaced muddlers for me anyway was boobies, and once the old boobies came into fashion, there wasn't really a need to be tying up muddler patterns, because you could get that disturbance much more effectively with a booby. So I've stacked my deer hair. and what I want to do is dress that up. I don't want it coming past my tail really. So once I've got that on, I'm going to get a couple of loose wraps. Sorry, you might not be able to see particularly well. And then once I've got the loose wraps on, I can spin the deer hair around the fly. So next thing then is you do get tools that push it back, and in fact if you're going to do a lot of muddlers you can get various tools, especially what I've been meaning to pick up for years is the razor blade tool, which I've not quite managed to sum up the courage to buy it because it is quite expensive. So pull everything back, get a couple of wraps in, and then we're simply going to invert the vise and repeat that process. So I'll grab another chunk of deer hair, if you can bear with me. And again, I've got to strip it out. It's a bit repetitive this, but it is required. So I'll then put that into my stacker. Now what's prompted me to think about this fly is the Kit Kat Cup is imminent. In fact, I think by the time you see this video, it'll be this weekend, and I'll be in Jock Kettle's house when it releases. But he's managed to secure some great venues for this year's event, and you'll hear more about that in the fly time video. So I've stacked up my other hair. I'm going to come in again. I want to just get everything out of the way here. Pull it in. It's just misbehaving a little, but that's what deer hair does. Makes your life a misery. Again, I'll get a couple of loose turns, and then I can spin it up. And that's looking not too bad. I'll just come through again, and I'm going to pull everything back. Now, I've still got a bit of space at the front, which is good. And you know what's coming next, don't you? For a third time, I'm going to come back to my skin here and take another chunk of deer hair. Now the thing that always got me with muddlers was I didn't know how to leave it alone, and I'll explain that more when I come to trimming the head. But the trouble with these flies is you don't just leave it like this, obviously. You have got to trim it up. So I'm not going to bother with the stacker this time. I'm going to get the deer hair on. Loose turns. Spin it round the hook shank. Again, just going to use my fingers to gently pull that back, and as you can see, I've now got no room at the front of the hook, which is great. That's exactly what I want. Just keep stroking it back out the way. Now, when you're using the GSP threads, it's not all good news with these. So I was speaking to Brian Smith the other day, or well, exchanging messages with Brian, and he was asking about how his scissors are holding up. I've got some of the Fly Smith scissors here, and they've been excellent. They're the best scissors I've ever owned. And sadly though, they're starting to blunt up, and it's because I constantly use GSP threads in my fly tying, and they will blunt scissors pretty fast. Well, I say pretty fast. I've had these for about 7 months now. I'm going to just get a touch of super glue onto my thread. I don't want to come in after the fact, and then I can again pull it back, get that super glue onto the head of the fly. And then whip finish. Oops, and that's come away. No problem. So now we've got this hot mess that you see before you, and this is the bit where I always make a right mess of the fly. I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm going to attempt to start trimming this up. Now, less is more with this, so don't come in and be savage. Just start small and you'll soon find what you need. Now, the other thing that I'm not a big fan of, not that my bench is ever particularly tidy, but it's a messy fly. So if you're tying on your dining room table, you're likely to annoy your partner in a big way, because they'll be picking up deer hair for forever. If you can bear with me. What we're trying to do is keep the ends of the deer hair that are tied in at the start intact. So these fibres here we want to keep. Excuse my fingers, just using them as a guide, a bit like a barber. I know what you're thinking, you've made a right mess of that, Lindsay, but you've just got to trust in the process. It will come good, guys. What I would normally do, if I'm honest, is I wouldn't do this in the vise. I'd just take the fly out, do it in my hand. I find that a bit easier, but it would be difficult to film that. So hence I'm working away with the fly in the vise. What else is a bit annoying is that when I turn all the light, so for videos, all the light needs to be at the front of the fly really, so the important thing is that you see. It's not so important that well, it is quite important that I see, and that can cause problems like now. So when I bring my fingers around to just tidy up the front of this fly, it's covering up the light and I'm just failing to see some of the detail. But it's coming on, I'm getting there. I'm just trying to waffle on and kill time while I just make this fly a bit presentable. So I'll just see where I'm at with that. And that's looking not too bad. It's maybe a wee bit big yet. But again, I don't want to take away the bottom too much, but you do want a clear distance in your gape here, because that's where you're going to hook your fish up. And you can see how that razor blade would be so much better, you know, if I had the tool. It's like it bends a razor blade slightly, and it looks great for this sort of thing, but it's quite expensive considering for what it is. It's a bit of wire that holds a razor blade. Now I'm going to call a hole at that, and it still looks pretty messy, but there is a little trick that you can do using a lighter that will tidy up the whole thing. So what I tend to do is grab the bits I don't want to get burned, and then just come in with a lighter to tidy up the ends. This just gives the whole fly a bit of a tidy. Looks a lot better. Now, with the heads, you can tie them in as tight or as loosely as you like. It depends on what effect you want to go for. But for me, if I'm using this to replace the likes of a booby, I want a firm head that's going to displace plenty of water, so that when I pull the fly through the wave or the surface of the water, I'm getting that wake, that V-like shape behind the flies, and that tail's just perfect actually. And hopefully this is going to catch me a few fish. I'd like to fish it on a floating line with maybe some other traditional patterns up if we're going to target some brown trout. So I'm going to tie up 4 or 5 of these just from a box, just in case. Now I hope that was of some use. Don't be afraid to give deer hair a go, and trust me when I tell you, if you're new to fly tying, you're going to be losing your patience with it, and you're going to have a lot of flies in the bin, but just be patient. Keep going with it, keep practicing, and once you've tied 5 or 6, you'll get into the groove and you'll end up having a box full of very nice traditional style flies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.